Hello, and welcome back to Jane Doe Reads. I am your host, Jane Doe, here for your reading needs. Now, I have a very special fanfic for you guys today because it is the one-shot. It is called A Mirror Image of Us Here by Anonymous. Now, since it is an anonymous work, I did not ask permission from the author to post this fic here on YouTube, since it is anonymous and I don't really know if they're getting the comments or not, and I don't know who actually is the author. So if any person wants me to take this down, I am willing to do it because it is anonymous work. It would be very different if this was actually have an author to be credited, and I would totally ask their permission before even posting it here on YouTube. But since it is anonymous, I'm wishy-washy about asking because, you know, anonymous, I ask, another person responds. I don't know if they're actually the author or not, so I'm just like, if people take this down, please. I'm like, okay. So this is staying on here for however long until someone says no. So, yeah. Anyway, on screen for you guys today are the tags of the fic. The ones that are bolded are the ones that I think are the most important, but please pause the screen, look over it, because each tag is important and I want you to understand what you are getting into. Now, as a warning, look at the bolded tags. There is implied reference to child abuse. If someone doesn't like this, I'm telling you now, it's in here. If you don't like it, don't listen. Okay. With that out of the way, let's get on to the summary. Damien knows the first brother he had was dead. It's a truth that he can't deny. A simple statement from Drake turns what Damien knows on its head. Drake knows things. He always has. Now they must follow this knowing to Damien's lost twin. This is a mirror image of us here by Anonymous.
Were you ever going to say you have a brother? Drake asked, out of the blue in the dark hush of the Batcave. Damien's fingers froze on the keyboard of the Batcomputer. The search he had been attempting to find the right parameters for were half completed. Had, Damien managed. I had a brother, Drake. Silence moved back in. Damien picked at the keys, mind struggling to find the right words. Have, Drake said, nearly to himself. You have a brother. Fury spiked, and the search was lost under the sudden slam of a keyboard, a scramble of letters studying away on the screen. If this is your attempt at bonding? Damien started to spit, before the words died in his throat. Drake's eyes, Drake smiled, seeing something no one else could. I know things, Damien, Drake said, the word familiar to both of them. He explained before, Drake had, about his knowing. Intuition, some would say. Clairvoyance, the others would call it. Drake didn't call it anything. They were just some things he knew, like an infant knows to hold their breath underwater. Instinct, maybe? Survival, surely. Damien slowly sat back down, unsure when he stood. His knees suddenly felt weak, no more useful than a newborn fawn's. Have, Damien whispered. I have a brother. Drake smiled, soft. You have brothers, technically, but this one was your first. Numbness spread, and his heart pounded like a drum. His thoughts moved like molasses. Shock, and a part of him acknowledged. Danielle. Yes, Damien agreed through the numb lips. My first. I thought, that is, I believed he... A hand on his shoulder, warm, grounding. You were meant to think he was dead, Drake said, in a way that told Damien he wasn't even sure where the words were coming from. But he was speaking them anyway. You both were separated, you're both powerful, but together? Drake huffed out something like a laugh. What force you'll make. The demon twins, Damien said. He heard his grandfather's voice echo with his. We were meant to be nothing like before, two halves of a whole, a katana and a wakishi wielded in sync. Damien heard more than he saw Drake's shrug. What the League wanted and what you want aren't the same thing. He's alive, dummy. You can forge a new future. You aren't weapons, not unless you want to be. A new chance. A new future. What would Daniel be like? Shed of the League's ideals. What would he want? Damien swallowed, numbness fading away to something frantic. Where? He begged, demanded. Drake's eyes were deep, the pale blue of them lost to the two wide pupils in the shadows of the cave. Drake's head cocked to the side, as if listening to something Damien couldn't hear. This was more than usual for Drake. Usually, when Drake had these knowings, it was simple, if an impossible thing to be known. The code to a safe, without any hint to it, nor any attempt to crack it. The country Black Mask had changed his offshore accounts to. Which warehouse to find Scarecrow's hidden stash of fear gas? That father lived. Midwest, Drake said, finally letting out a long sigh. His hand lifted from Damien's shoulder and rubbed at his head. I don't know anymore. You need rest, Damien said, trying to contain the wild spike of energy that now lived in him. He wanted to go, but he needed more than what he had. Drake, Damien said slowly. Timothy, he corrected. The other jerked, hands dropping to stare. You? Thank you. It was hard to research someone that didn't technically exist. Daniel Al Ghul had no trail to follow, no papers to find, no proof he'd ever stepped on this earth. When one cannot find the existence of something, one must look for what is missing, find the gaps, and the whole thing could be pulled apart. Damien started with his own existence. Technically, before his mother had brought him to father, he hadn't existed either, not in the way the modern world demanded. His papers, his parentage, his past had to be created. It was, Damien mused, much like how he'd been created, under false pretenses and a willingness to do whatever was needed. With Danielle on the line, there wasn't much Damien wouldn't do. So he followed his own trail, saw the patterns in where his papers were created, stories were made, evidence was left. A bribe to this official here, a static security camera there, falsehoods given the veneer of truth. After he searched his own trail, he looked deeper. There were only so many ways to smuggle a person, only so many people one could trust to create the right papers. If Daniel lived, and he did live, he need a past. He need papers and a cover and somewhere to belong. Damien just needed to connect the dots. Somewhere between Nada Parat and the American Midwest was the trail that led to his brother, and Damien refused to believe he wouldn't find it. A singular hospital visit was what finally did it. The hospital records were both vague and over-detailed, and the CPS visit that had spawned was never followed up on, despite the concerns it listed. Accident, scars, permanent damage, too much electricity. Lucky to be alive. The grainy, too small photo on file was hard to clear up, and the time it taken had nearly driven Damien to insanity. By the time they'd done everything they can to it, and loaded it up on the main screen of the back computer, Damien was both shocked and relieved to see his own eyes staring back at him. He knew that face. The way Danielle's chin dipped more than his did, contrasted with the fact that Danielle's cheeks had always been a little fuller, less sharp. The way their brows were nearly the same, but Danielle's were just slightly less angular. Their eyes, so close in color, yet Damien's had always been greener. Some of the details was still lost, even in the cleaned-up photo, but it's Daniel. It's his brother. The coordinates are programmed, and the plan is set. and Damien runs. Amity Park, Illinois, was a nothing town. Average, American, plain. If one ignored the giant signs claiming it to be the most haunted city in all of America. If one ignored the person they were here to find, the only reason Damien cared at all for this nothing town, in a state he'd never been in. The supposed haunting of the town meant little to Damien, a gimmick, he thought, before wondering, not for the first time, how he was going to do this. How did one look at the brother they thought lost and bring him home? How did one apologize for not looking? He thought he'd known. He thought the small little marker in his mother's private garden was all that was left of a brother that was meant to follow him through it all. A pitiful remembrance for someone that was so close. Such a tiny thing for a wound so large. They passed into the town. Someone made a joke over the lurid green cutout of what the town thought represented a ghost pasted to the side of the building. Timothy's sudden jerk, the phone falling from his hands, cuts the laughter. "Daniel's here," Timothy said, something different in the way he pronounced Danielle's name. "We know Tim," Dick said, careful, watching. Timothy nodded slowly, brow furrowed. Damien, too, watched. "Is there something we're missing, Timothy?" Timothy rubbed at his left hand, fingers flexing as if in pain. "Everything."
"I hate when you get this cryptic, Timberlina."
Jason groaned from the front seat. Damien doesn't miss the way he watched Timothy, keen eyes searching for the moment it's too much. Timothy managed a smile.
"I don't like it either."
Am I on the fucking floor?
Brown's voice crackled through the tension, teeny and distant. Timothy's phone crackled with the force of her fury.
"Language, Stephanie,"
Father said from the front seat, knuckles white on the steering wheel.
"Well, we all knew this probably wouldn't be simple,"
Jason lamented. No one asked any more of Timothy. The drive continued. They stopped at the hotel. It was mundane, the way they checked in, the false identities that flowed from Father's lips. The Waynes are not here. They have never been here. They will never be here. Tension coiled in Damien. So close. His brother was here. His brother lived. He would see his face again. They finished the process, got the key cards, lugged their belongings to the rooms. Damien dumped his bag on the closest bed in the room that he shared with Timothy and turned to start the search. "He's different," Timothy said, rubbing his left hand again. "So am I," Damien countered. It was inevitable, the differences, the years apart. Years where the other was dead. How could they not be, in the wake of it all? They had to live without their other half, learn how to be alive without the other beside them. It would not be a wound that would heal easily. Or without scars. "You are," Timothy agreed. "But..." The pause stretched. Damien ached to look for the missing half of himself. Damien could not leave this newer brother to his knowing. "You are," Timothy said again. "But he's different. In the way that I'm different. But also not." Frustration poured from Timothy, and the sudden jerk of his hand, the universal sign for stopped held in Damien's tongue. "There's a secret, one he holds close, something that sets him apart. It protects him, but it also puts him in danger." Damien thought he got it. Timothy's knowing had saved his life, had saved all their lives, more than one could count. It was a powerful thing, and yet it was a vulnerable thing. Timothy could not control his knowings, could not always understand them. They couldn't prevent everything, couldn't save everyone. Timothy was smart, smarter than even Damien could follow at times, finding connections where no one else could. It wasn't all the knowings, either. Timothy worked, hunted down clues and processed evidence and spent hours cleaning up crappy security footage, just like the rest of them. The knowings were just the extra, the more, an edge. It was a target on Timothy's back, even as it was the sword at his enemy's neck. If Danielle had something like that, a power, a skill, an edge, then he would guard it, even as he used to attack. It was nothing Damien could blame him for, but it was yet another difference between then and now. "I will protect him then," Damien said. He watched Timothy closely. "Just as I will protect you." Timothy blinked, shock painted across his face. "You?" He paused, words failing. "Know this," Damien said, the word choice deliberate, firm. "I have brothers. I'm going to find my first, and I refuse to lose any of the rest." Timothy blinked, slow and careful. One of his hands drifted to touch his temple, a move he often made when knowing. A smile spread across a face that was often far too serious.
I know,
Timothy said, laughing like it was a surprise. "Good," Damien said. He closed the door softly behind him. He wandered the town. He started in a search grid, careful and meticulous. He had gotten caught up, however, in the town his brother presumably called home. Simple, everyday, an American town. Wide streets and loud cars, and the same fast food chains that lived across the country. Loud people to go with the cars. It was both slow-paced and fast, caught between sleepy country town and bustling city. Kids roamed, though none of them were the one he wanted to see. They wore bright and practical outfits with flimsy shoes, and Damien wondered if Danielle had been caught off guard by it all as he had. The recklessness, the absence of constant, watching eyes, the sheer waste. The way kids around him were allowed to dream. What do you want to be when you grow up? A simple question he'd never been asked before. A presumption that his future was his, and not simply a means to Ra's ends. How did Danielle reacted when he'd been asked? Did he find the ability to dream his own future? Would he be disappointed in Damien, who still struggled with the idea? A whole future. All of his own. Possibilities laid at his feet that weren't drenched in blood. What did one do with a bloodless future? He hoped Danielle had found an answer, even if it was only for himself. His phone dinged in his pocket. A quick glance revealed a simple text. "Wait." Damien looked around. The street didn't seem any different from the dozens he walked in the hours since he left the hotel, but Timothy had gotten them this far. He didn't think Timothy quite understood just how much Damien owed him for this. He never once expected his brother, his twin, his other half, still lived. It was a part of him that he thought would never heal, a seeping wound no one could see. It wasn't healed, probably would never be quite the same, but getting Danielle back, in whatever way it happened, would stem the worst of it. Damien waited. It was a quieter street, tucked back away from the main road, more residential than anything. There was some sort of sign on one of the buildings a couple blocks away. It blinked neon above the roofs, but Damien could not see the text as yet. He had been wandering towards it when Timothy's text had halted him. His phone dinged again. "Secrets out. Go." Damien ran. The neon was visible now. Fitton Works flashed boldly as Damien crashed towards it. There was a hush to the street, a silence that held knives. A high, thin scream. Damien didn't pause, didn't knock, didn't think. The door crashed in, his shoulder throbbing from the lack of padding. Green eyes met blue. Danielle looked small, lying on the floor of the house's kitchen. His right hand clamped over his left, body trembling. His breathing was harsh, shuddering, and catching. He looked scared. "Just let us help you," a woman croned. Honey sweet. There was a tone under her voice, something that made him think of Mother's soft smiles as she demanded more, as she promised it'd all be worth it.
"We'll free you, Danny boy,"
a man said, too loud, too bright, as false as the woman.
"Please,"
Danielle said, and Damien couldn't tell who he was pleading to. it really didn't matter. Damien did not come here to lose a brother. He had his lost brother, his first brother, in his arms. Lights flashed, reflecting off the windows, lighting up old bricks and too pale skin. His brother was too light in his arms, felt a little cooler than he should, and there's something about him, something familiar, for all that it was unfamiliar. Whatever it was, whatever secret that lived beneath Daniel's skin, it mattered not. They were together. "You're really here," Daniel whispered, disbelief clear. "Yes," Damien agreed. There were so many words he wanted to say, but where did one start? I'm sorry. I thought if I'd known you were alive, Daniel." "I know," Daniel said. His arms tightened. "I know. If I had known," Damien squeezed. "We were lied to." A long pause. "I'm so tired," Daniel said, voice shaking. "I thought they seemed like they cared, and then—" Daniel looked up at Damien, eyes both desperate and furious. "Is there anyone that could be trusted? Am I not allowed to have something precious? Am I not worth the time?" "Yes." Damien snapped it out, furious on his brother's behalf. "There are people worthy, and you are worth all the time and more. I will not abandon you. Not again." "You didn't, Tommy," Daniel said softly, exhaustion stealing his fury. He breathed deep, and Damien belatedly wondered when the last time he felt Daniel's breath was. "I know you think I'm worth it, but we're going to need more than that to stay together." "We have more," Damien declared. He thought of what Tim said, the secret that's both weapon and risk. "We have more brothers, Daniel. They're here, and they won't care what secrets you hold. Father won't either." Daniel stiffened. "Brothers?" he questioned. Damien flicks the back of Daniel's head, gently. "You are my first, and my only twin. You are not replaced, Daniel." "You went soft, Damien," Daniel said. It said like it's a good thing, like it's not a weakness. Damien hummed. "I suppose in some ways I have." Voices raised, familiar and welcomed. "Father isn't who what Mother told us," Damien said, and Daniel listened carefully, eyes watching the broad figure that moved closer. "He is firm, but not unfair. He has a moral code that he won't bend, and doesn't condone murder, nor needless torture. Failure is learning to him. Punishments are fair, and are not painful or humiliating. Guidelines are given, and the goals are reachable. He loves us." "They loved me," Daniel said lowly, body tensing. He doesn't make a move to run. "They loved an idea of you," Damien countered. It's a guess, mostly, based on the context and the echoes he saw between Daniel's parents and the way grandfather treated them. "They didn't love you enough to accept your secret or listen to you about it. They had an expectation you could never meet. Father just wants you, however you are. He's furious that Mother lied again, that you were alive and needed us, and he didn't know." "And if I'm too much?" Daniel asked, body as small as he could make it. Father paused several paces away, waiting. "My secret isn't small, Damien. It's also not going away." "You're not too much," Damien scoffed. "I can't speak of some things here. There's too many people. But Father is well acquainted with secrets. And of course it's not going away. It's part of you." "I won't leave without Jazz." Daniel finally spoke, the silence between them having lasted several minutes. Joy sparkled in Damien, and he didn't bother to stop the smile. "We'll make arrangements then," Damien said lightly. Brown will be thrilled to have another girl to rope into, whatever she and Kane get up to.
How many siblings did you say there was?
Danielle asked, even as Damien gestured farther closer.
I didn't.
Damien laughed. Timothy slept bonelessly at the foot of Damien's bed. Danielle blinked slowly from his stolen mound of pillows.
He's been here for 10 hours, at least,
Danielle observed, head cocked at the brother he barely had a chance to speak to in the aftermath of leaving Amity Park. Officially, the Waynes were never there. Strange, then, how they managed to pick up a pair of siblings from the aftermath of a shocking abuse case. Weird, how things with the Waynes worked. Good. Who knows when he last slept properly, Damien said, sketchbook open on his lap.
Damien, why is he sleeping on your bed?
Danielle questioned, watching Damien's pen. Damien paused, looked up at Timothy, then shrugged, going back to his drawing. I don't ask things like that with Timothy. A pause.
You don't ask?
Danielle sounded like he spoken in a foreign language, one Danielle was still learning.
No,
Damien hummed.
Damien, give me something here. What the hell?
Danielle whined, flopping heavily onto Damien's back. He'd done so dramatically and given Damien plenty of time to move his pen from the paper. You will see, Damien said. Timothy must be experienced.
You're so annoying,
Danielle said, as if he wasn't the one slowly trying to push Damien off the bed. Damien shot him a dry look, and was rewarded with Danielle's grin. The sketchbook was forgotten as Damien taught Danielle a few new things, like how to effectively choose a pillow for a pillow fight. They'd barely settled down when Timothy stretched and blinked his eyes open. It's Thursday, Damien said when he noticed. It's roughly 2 p.m., and Father has assured your friends that you're not dead. They don't want to hear from you until you've eaten and showered. Timothy huffed out a laugh.
I'll get right on that then,
he said, but he made no move from the bed. Damien sighed and tossed him a granola bar from his nightstand.
I love how I'm still so confused,
Danielle mused. After Timothy had opened the granola bar and caught the bottle of water Damien had tossed him. Timothy smiled, carefully folding the wrapper.
I should have known Damien wouldn't say anything.
It isn't my secret, Damien said, again.
It's not really a secret, not to family,
Timothy said, again. Still, Damien said, it's yours to choose how to explain.
I thought you all agreed I suck at explaining it,
Timothy said, rolling his eyes. You do, Damien agreed, but it's yours to explain badly. Danielle groaned and flopping backwards.
You're talking in circles.
Timothy laughed.
Sorry. I'm told you asked Damien how he knew you were alive.
The bed jerked as Danielle shot upright.
Is someone finally going to explain that?
Yes, Timothy said, then paused. He chewed on the inside of his lip for a long moment.
I don't really know how else to explain this. I know things that can't be explained, that logically I shouldn't know. I don't even really understand how I knew, but I took a picture of Damien and just something was missing.
Damien leaned forward. Timothy hadn't explained this before. Damien hadn't thought to ask.
No matter what I did to the photo, the edits I did, the changes in how I developed it, if I did it digitally or something wasn't right. There was supposed to be something in the photo. Someone. I didn't figure it out, not really, until we were working late one night, and I just asked why he hadn't told us he had a brother. And just like that, I realized what was missing.
Timothy looked down at his clasped hands.
Like I said, no logic to it, just knowing. You just knew I was alive? Danielle whispered, eyes wide with some emotion Damien couldn't name. Timothy shrugs. Yeah, pretty much. In the next moment, they both nearly go tumbling off the bed with the force of Danielle's hug. Thank you, Danielle whispered. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Timothy, buried under Danielle, managed to hug him back. You're welcome. A quick flash, and it's over. Timothy smiled at the camera, pleased. That's going to be so much better, he said, mostly to himself. Well, yeah, it's got me in it, Danielle said, and Damien had to scoff to hide a smile. You've gotten vain, brother, Damien teased, though his tone was desert dry. Danielle laughed, as always able to find the joke, no matter how amused Damien managed to sound. And you've gotten boring, Danielle countered, jerking slightly when Timothy snorted out a laugh. No, he hasn't, he said, and Danielle narrowed his eyes. You're not going to tell me until tonight, are you? Danielle realized, resigned. Nope, Timothy grinned. We're going to do this properly for once. Now, Damien snorted. It only took how many times? Yeah, Timothy waved away Damien's words. We're hardly perfect. The score is so low it's in hell, Damien said, and Danielle laughed, despite having no context. I mean, yeah, Timothy agreed. Cryptic bastards, Danielle sighed. You guys are going to drive me batty. Neither Timothy nor Damien could explain what was so funny. Batman? Danielle said, probably for the 10th time. Are you kidding me? Not even a little, Dick said, cheerfully, fully dressed in his Nightwing suit, sans mask. Danielle paused, finally stopping in his ever-widening circles. You really meant it? Danielle said, looking at Damien. Damien cocked his head, confused. When you said he knew secrets? Yes, Damien said, pausing when Timothy suddenly leaned onto his shoulder. It's okay, Timothy said, smiling slightly, though his eyes were distant. Your secret's yours to share, when you want. He frowned. Though you may want to think about it. There's something at the edges. Danielle nodded slowly, taking it in. Timothy smiled and put on his mask. Enjoy being on comms tonight, Danielle grinned. You better believe it.
A ghost?
It echoed from several mouths. Surprise, Danielle said, sheepish and glowing. I don't even know why I'm here anymore. Jason deadpanned. Dick shrugged and nodded. Honestly, it's not even the weirdest thing this week, Dick said, and Damien agreed. This is not how I thought this was going to go, Danielle mused, but there's no missing in the relief in his eye. Sorry, kid, Timothy said. You'll have to try harder. Is that a challenge? Danielle asked. No, Father said with a sigh. It's not. Thank you for telling us, Danielle. Danielle smiled. His left hand was shaking. There was more to it, more than a simple accident. But he was here, and he was safe, and at least half alive. It was more than Damien had ever thought he'd have again. When he gently pulled his brother down to him for a hug, it was different. There were bones missing beneath his hands, and the texture of the hazmat suit Danny wore was strange, but it was still his brother.
And that is the end of our one-shot. Now, the whole reason why I chose this one is because it's short and sweet, and I really like the story overall. It was a really good read that I found, a few days ago. I was scrolling, and, I'm constantly being updated with my new favorite fandoms currently. So I just appeared and I read it. I was like, yeah, I'm reading this to you guys. I gotta read this one to you guys. And, I never get tired of my Timothy because I always imagine Tim, being dead tired to the world. So he's constantly voiced down, just dragging words. Unless he has 6 cups of coffee in him, he still sounds dead tired. So I was just like, I'm doing with this one. And we haven't met Tim. I've been reading this fanfic so long, I keep calling Tim Timothy. Ugh. Well, they haven't been introduced officially, their voices yet, in Adventures of a Screwed Up Clone. So I wanted to try them out, see if I like these voices. So tell me what you guys think. Overall, I think this is going to be the end for us today. So this is Jane Doe, and I'll see you guys in our next reading session. Bye!